There are a lot of people out there looking to build their own tiny house. Having built a tiny house myself, I have a few lessons learned I thought I'd share. I'm Craig, and if you're new to my channel, I live in a tiny house here in Washington State. I make videos about setting up a permaculture homestead and some of the tinker projects that I find interesting and useful. Today, I'm going to talk about the 4 most difficult parts about building your own tiny house. So let's get into it. Number 1, getting started. When building a tiny house, there is a lot of different skills you have to master, and it can feel a bit overwhelming. If you haven't built something like this before, there's a pretty steep learning curve. While it's a small house, it is a big project. I found it helpful to break the project down into smaller chunks and work on each of them one at a time. Start by looking through other tiny houses that you like, and then commit to your own design. There will always be other things that you want to do or to change, but until you pick one that you can go with, you're going to be stuck. The key is to have an end goal in mind so that you can get started and have a clear vision of what you want the project to look like. Keep in mind, when you get started, you don't have to have all the details figured out. You don't need to know which brand of cabinets you want or which type of sink you're going to install. But you should know the layout of where you want the main components, like the doors and the windows and any other main things that are going to take up a substantial part of your structure. That way, when you get your materials, you'll be able to frame in for those. Number 2, funding the project. With traditional financing options being off the table, finding money for your build can be a little tricky. I'm a fan of saving up cash and paying as you build. The benefit of this strategy is that it makes the budget more flexible. The downside is that it only allows you to build on your weekends, which can make the build take significantly longer. You really have to think about how fancy and how expensive of a house you want to build. My intent was to make a house I'd be happy to live in without it eating up too much of my savings. For me, the tiny house was only part of the expenses because I'm setting up an entire homestead, so I needed funding for that as well. As a former financial coach, I have some tips and tricks for saving money on my other channel. I'll link to that in the description below. Number 3, installing plumbing and electrical. Building a tiny house can be deceptive. I thought the smaller space would make it easier to do the plumbing and electrical, but it actually made it more difficult. In a traditional house, you can spread out the appliances and you can cheat things over in the design if there isn't enough room. In a tiny house, you have the same amount of appliances as a larger house with a fraction of the space to fit them in. This means the lines for your electrical and plumbing can end up getting a little crowded in your walls. Because of this, I found it necessary to run them both simultaneously so that I could ensure that they would all fit. Prior to this build, I had no experience with plumbing or running electrical wire, so this delayed my build quite a bit. I didn't want to make a mistake that could potentially burn my house down or cause massive water damage. I spent a lot of time on YouTube trying to learn from other people until I finally felt comfortable giving it a shot. Luckily, I had my father's help, and together we were able to complete both tasks without too much trouble. However, this was by far my least favorite part of this project. Number 4, keeping momentum. Stuff goes wrong on big projects like this. And when it does, it's easy to feel like you want to quit and just burn this place down. I messed up so many things during this build. We had leaks in the plumbing. The shower doors that got delivered were the wrong size. One day my saw bucked and I nearly cut my hand off. And those are just a few of the bad things that happened. Setbacks like this drastically delayed the timeline for my build. I was constantly disappointed with myself that my tiny house wasn't completed yet. The internet makes it look like these things get built in a week. But unless it's a team of experienced builders, that is not realistic. Keeping momentum was the key to getting this thing done. I shifted my attitude and started focusing on getting one simple task done per day. Sometimes that meant breaking it down to something really easy, like if I can install these door handles today, it will be a successful day. Setting more realistic daily expectations for myself helped me keep better momentum going and helped me to push through some of those setbacks. It also helps to remember that when something breaks during your build and you have to learn to fix it, that isn't wasted time. Instead, just see it as an opportunity to acquire more skills. Then, if that ever happens again, you'll feel confident that you can fix it because you've done it before. I feel confident I can fix anything in this house because I've already broken it and I built this place from scratch. So that is a nice confidence boost going forward. While a project like this is a major undertaking and can be very stressful, I can assure you once it's done, it's definitely worth the work. Hopefully you found this information helpful, and if you're doing a build of your own, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more content like this.